Do good, Maverick. Go here. Perfection equals paralysis. Dan Pena. There's a lot of truth to that quote, that perfection equals paralysis. Because when you get stuck in perfectionism, it's almost the same as being paralyzed, because you can waste weeks, months, years of life, and not just time, money as well, on perfectionism. Not to talk about the opportunity cost, all of the opportunities that you're missing out on because you're wasting time on perfectionism. So don't let perfectionism hold you back from doing what you know you should be doing. And the great paradox is that oftentimes perfectionism is what's holding people back from perfectionism. You know, that it's actually that thing of perfectionism that is holding people back from actually producing great works, whether it be in business, art, whatever it might be. If you're too perfectionistic and you don't get things done, then it's also oftentimes holding people back from good results. And another thing is that oftentimes the way to great quality is through great quantity. So oftentimes it's not just about working on one thing really focused for a lot of time, for a long period, and trying to get it just right. In many cases, it's through quantity that the quality will get better as well. Like one example that people like to use is when it comes to the artist Pablo Picasso. He made about 13,500 paintings. You know, this is from the internet. Experts believe that in all his life, Pablo Picasso produced about 147,800 pieces, consisting of 13,500 paintings, 100,000 prints and engravings, 300 sculptures and ceramics, and 34,000 illustrations. An impressive 78-year career. Who knows how accurate that is, but he was prolific. Oftentimes, the way to great quality is through great quantity. I think the one who pointed that out to me was a Norwegian billionaire in one of his books. He talked about how in his business as well he's running hotel chains, kind of an empire of hotels. And in his case as well, quantity was a very important factor. It was not just only about quality, but that quantity factor played a massive part. So yeah, when it comes to podcasts, for example, have you ever seen a podcast host, a podcaster that has completely failed and he had 1,000 episodes or more than 1,000 episodes? I've never even heard of it. Maybe it exists. I don't think so. Of course, it's not only about quantity, but there's a lot of things that can be solved through sheer volume. And if you suck at podcasting, like I do, what should you do? Should you go back to college, spend 5 years on communication skills, and script out all your episodes, rehearse them 20 times, and then record them and make one episode every 3 months? Or should you try to make a bunch of them? Who knows what right answer is, but or what the ideal thing is. But people tend to get better when they do more of something. And if you have something that is of value for people, a piece of advice that you have learned from others that made a difference in your life, if you share it, can it make a big positive difference in the life of other people? Well, if the answer is yes, then maybe you should share it, even if you sound unprofessional and you don't have the best delivery. maybe you should still share it and post it, you know? So yeah, don't let perfectionism hold you back. And this is big when it comes to launching things. When I look back at all the stupid mistakes I made, one of the big ones is actually not making the mistakes sooner enough. Because if you're going to make a mistake, you should make it as fast as possible. If you're going to fail, fail as fast as possible. Because then at least you have more time left over to test the next thing and the next thing and get to that thing that is going to work and take off. I'm not saying you should switch from thing to thing, but maybe you have to try different approaches on the same thing to get it to work, you know. And perfectionism is what holds a lot of people back from launching, from getting to that first sale, that first dollar. So yeah, like I keep saying, I'm not an expert at this at all when it comes to online business, stuff like that. But just look around when it comes to perfectionism. It's holding a lot of people back. You know, that reminds me also about that book from that Norwegian billionaire, that book that I read. He talked about when it comes to perfectionism, a lot of people like to talk about Steve Jobs and Apple. Yeah, but Apple and Steve Jobs, he was a perfectionist. They took was it the iPod, I think. He wanted it to be as small as possible, and they came to his office. Now we have made it as small as it's possible to make it. And he took it and he dropped it inside the aquarium in his office. And he looked at it and said, "Hey, there's bubbles coming out of it. If it's room for air inside it, you can still make it smaller. Go make it smaller." And people take that as an example at like, hey, look at Steve Jobs. He was a perfectionist. But the argument that that Norwegian guy made was that that was not perfectionism. It was being detail oriented. When it comes to the iPod, the phrase for the iPod was 1,000 songs in your pocket. So a big part of that whole product was the size. It had to be small and slim to fit in the pocket. It was it was not about making the whole thing perfect because it was not. You know, when it came to iPods, it had a tendency to break and suddenly just stop working. So they were definitely not perfect. So he wasn't really a perfectionist about them, but he was very detail oriented. So there might be a lot of details you need to get right, but it doesn't mean you have to be a perfectionist in order to create great things, you know. And another thing is that getting that customer getting that customer feedback, client feedback is oftentimes one of the main things that's going to help you to improve, optimize, and kind of perfect a product or a service as well. So yeah, don't let perfectionism hold you back, and don't make it or don't let it make you waste a lot of time. You know, another thing that comes to mind when it comes to perfectionism and how it often holds people back. You know, when it's more variables, it also adds complexity. I'm just thinking because the last few weeks I've interviewed people about paid communities and how fast several of those people were launching was really, really fascinating and inspiring. But yeah, by the way, if you want to learn from real life success stories on building a paid community that is making at least 5 figures in profit per month, as well as connect with a bunch of other people that are also building paid communities, you should check out communitycashcows.com. Maybe you can build your own cash cow, your own community cash cow. You can also find it on terrific30.com. All right.